Welcome to the FAFSA Leadership Lounge, where we dive into the policies shaping the work of Florida's school leaders. I'm Michelle White, Executive Director of the Florida Association of School Administrators.
And I'm Jessica Janasiewicz, lobbyist for FAFSA in several school districts across the state of Florida.
Well, Jessica, we're going to start this week with some good news, which we love. Volusia County Schools just shared some big news about the class of 2025. Their college and career acceleration rate has jumped to 73.8%, which is a 7-point boost compared to the previous year's graduating class. And when you look back a little further, it's even more impressive. That number is 9.3 points higher than it was for the class of 22.
Wow. And if you're wondering what goes into that score, it basically measures how many students are leaving high school with a serious head start, whether that's earning college credit through AP or dual enrollment, ACE or IB, or earning an industry certification, or completing a career and technical education program.
It is some great news. So congratulations to Volusia County Schools on this amazing achievement.
That's awesome. Now back to the legislature for a little housekeeping. We discussed Senate Bill 482, which is the Artificial Intelligence Bill of Rights bill. We thought that the bill might have a difficult time moving forward since the House bill, which is House Bill 1395, had not been heard in committee. And we were right. Last week, Senate Bill 482 was temporarily postponed on the Senate floor and for 2 days in a row on Wednesday and Thursday. And the bill sponsor, Senator Tom Leek, said the bill is being TP'd as he works on an amendment with another senator. So we'll see what happens there.
Oh my goodness. Well, let's go to a bill that we have discussed in detail in the past, the train bill that is also known as House Bill 1071, entitled Education. It was heard in the House last week, and it passed 82 to 31. It is also notable that of the 33 amendments filed, 20 of them were adopted into this bill.
Just when we thought the bill couldn't get any bigger, they made it 20 amendments bigger.
That's right.
So what ended up being in the bill? Well, a lot. Here is a summary of everything that made the cut. First, the bill bans public schools, including charter schools, from spending money on organizations that discriminate or promote diversity, equity, and inclusion programs as defined by the state, and also bans the use of funds for public or social activism.
The bill also updates how districts talk about virtual education. Instead of always pointing families to Florida Virtual School, they now have to include all approved virtual instruction providers. If a district has even one D or F school, they can declare an educational emergency. That frees them to assign high-quality teachers more flexibly or offer salary increases even outside normal collective bargaining issues.
Parental rights get a major expansion in this bill as well. Parents can opt their kids out of lessons in reproductive health, HIV/AIDS, and now human embryological and fetal development. The bill mandates new types of fetal development instruction. Schools must use a high-definition ultrasound video and a 3-minute animation that shows fertilization through fetal development.
So both public and private schools in this bill now must use FDA-approved epinephrine devices, not just any auto-injector. The bill lays out how schools buy them, store them, train staff, and the liability protections involved. Also, our favorite topic, cursive writing is back. Students in grades 2 through 5 must be taught how to write in cursive and be able to use it proficiently by the end of grade 5.
And so that's an example of a bill that had started to have some traction in committee in the House, not so much in the Senate, that has now found another home. They're trying to find a way to get it through the process.
They just pulled it right on out of that committee, didn't they?
Right on into this bill. Also in the bill, charter schools can no longer dismiss kids for poor academic performance unless the student has had a semester of progress monitoring support, and they cannot remove them during when they're under an improvement plan. Private schools also in the bill get more flexibility with facilities. They can operate now in libraries, museums, theaters, even old daycare buildings without rezoning, so long as they meet fire and safety codes. And then small private schools under 150 students get even more zoning leeway.
The bill also tightens oversight on early learning providers. if they violate rules, they can be barred from the VPK program for 2 to 5 years. Same for fraud. Providers involved in public assistance fraud are blocked for 5 years.
There's also a section in the bill that addresses instructional materials and publishers. This would allow the commissioner to penalize publishers who violate instructional materials laws, including pulling the books from the adopted list or banning a publisher from future bids for up to 5 years.
There's also a full overhaul of reading instruction plans, plus the creation of new comprehensive mathematics instruction system. That means every district and even every charter school has to create a math instruction plan with things like math coaches, intervention time, and progress monitoring.
Few other points for the bill. The bill also requires student records, including threat assessments, to transfer within 5 days if a student is transferring schools, and lets districts step in on attendance issues. It revises rules around Title I funding, updates teacher certification pathways, and requires the state to revise school space and occupancy requirements by 2026. Now, this bill has a number of related bills, which makes sense considering it's so expansive. There are 8 bills that are in some way related to this bill, and 5 of those are Senate bills. So that means there are some other pathways in the other chamber for some of these elements that are in this bill. So we will see what ends up making it to the very end.
Absolutely. And we only have a couple of weeks left to go. So, also last week, a bill that would expand vaccine exemptions for K 12 students just cleared its second committee in the Senate, but not without some fireworks. The Senate Appropriations Committee passed Senate Bill 1756 on a 10-7 vote. And interestingly, a couple of Republicans joined Democrats in voting against it.
That's right. And the criticism was pretty sharp in committee. Senator Gail Harrell said her own doctor told her, quote, "I don't want to relearn how to treat polio," warning the bill could bring back diseases that we haven't seen in decades. The bill creates a new conscious exemption so that parents can opt out of routine school vaccines, and even takes the state surgeon general take the power away from the state surgeon general to require vaccines during public health emergencies.
There is also a controversial provision letting pharmacists sell ivermectin over the counter, which some lawmakers said didn't even belong in the bill. And while the Senate is moving it along, the House version goes even further, but hasn't got a hearing yet.
That's right. So the bottom line is the bill is still alive, at least on the Senate side, and it's heading now to the Rules Committee. But even supporters have admitted that changes are going to be needed before it makes the Senate floor. Notably, as you said, the House bill was never heard in committee, and therefore, technically, by the rules, it is dead on the House side. So in order for the bill to pass both chambers, it would require the House to waive their rules and remove it from its committees of reference. This is probably very unlikely since it did not get a committee hearing, which indicates that leadership probably doesn't support this bill. If they wanted the bill to be heard, it would have been heard. However, stranger things have happened in the final weeks of session. So we're going to keep these bills on our radar, but because nothing is truly dead until the legislature gavels out of session and adjourns sine die.
So true. So another bill that we have previously discussed is House Bill 423, titled Student Elopement. This is the bill that is designed to help schools respond faster when a student with autism goes missing. The House Education and Employment Committee unanimously approved House Bill 423, which would require schools to create a special SAFE team and an emergency plan for kids who may wander or run off.
That's right. This bill really is about safety. It would have schools to put together a quick personalized guide for students who have a history of running, including their photo, medical details, communication abilities, and even places they might go so staff can act immediately. Advocates say this could save lives, especially since kids with autism are at higher risk of drowning and often can't communicate their name or their address.
What's also interesting is that this idea came from programs already working in Polk and Broward counties. And lawmakers from both parties praised the effort, saying it gives schools the tools they need to protect vulnerable students. This was the bill's second and final committee stop, so it's on track in the House, though the Senate version is still waiting for a hearing.
One more bill we want to discuss this week is a bill that could seriously shake up how fast Floridians are able to get public records. The bill comes in the wake of the House attempting to gather information from various state agencies during their investigation of the Hope Florida program last session. They had difficulty getting the documents that they requested, and now we have a bill to address that issue. The House State Affairs Committee unanimously approved House Bill 437, which would require government agencies, and that of course does include school districts, to respond to public records requests within 3 days, either releasing the records or explaining why they need more time or giving a timeline. And if they miss that window, then they can't charge fees.
That's right. And supporters say this is about restoring transparency. First Amendment advocates told lawmakers that agencies are taking months or even years, which I can't even imagine, to respond. So one example, a news outlet waited 5 months for travel expenses from a state official. But not everyone, of course, is thrilled by this. And even our own Orange County Public Schools pushed back, saying 3 days is unrealistic when some requests, especially in our school districts, can run to 10,000 pages and involves student privacy laws. And those districts just need time to make sure we're not handing out really sensitive information.
That's right. And still, despite that pushback, lawmakers were not swayed. They argued that agencies should at least acknowledge these requests quickly. Now, House Bill 437 has cleared its final committee stop, so it'll be headed to the House floor for a vote with the whole body. However, much like the immunization bill that we discussed previously, the Senate companion bill has yet to have a committee hearing in its first committee of reference. So the bill technically is dead in the Senate, but as we mentioned with the immunization bill, they can always waive the rules. They can always pull bills from committee. They can do really whatever they want. Leadership can, if this is something that becomes a bargaining chip with leadership as we move into the budget process.
That's right. And so from here forward, ultimately very focused on the budget. That has been our update for this week. We look forward to sharing with you next week even more progress on the budget, maybe some things that are getting finalized. Of course, fingers crossed that we end on time, but you never know with the legislature. So stay tuned, of course, to social media channels through FAFSA, our website at FAFSA.net, and of course, the FAFSA Leadership Lounge. Stay tuned for more.
Thank you for listening to the Leadership Lounge podcast presented by the Florida Association of School Administrators. Today's podcast was hosted by Michelle White and Jessica Janasiewicz. The podcast was produced by Jeff Willoughby. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. New episodes are released each Monday. For show topics, suggestions, questions, or comments, please email communications@fasa.net. We hope you enjoyed the show.